Hello everyone and welcome to Demystifying Change. I'm Sandeep Aujla and today we will explore 3 ways you can create change in the culture of your organization. So one of the most common things people have asked me is, I want my organizational culture to be more agile or more inclusive, more respectful, more open-minded, more innovative, independent of what type of culture you want to create. There are a few important considerations before we get into the strategies that actually help you make that change. Why is culture change so hard? Because it is so tacit, which means that it is implicit. It is within the way things are getting done in the organization. So you may have commonly seen an iceberg as a metaphor to explain culture. Yes, it is things that are visible in the environment, but then so much more is about the values, beliefs, assumptions that are guiding the behavior of the people in the organization. And that is very hard much to articulate as much as it is to change. So given that challenge, where do you begin? The first thing is, do you have absolute clarity in terms of how people should be behaving so that you can articulate what those expectations are for your dream culture for your organization? And once you have that, 3 things you can do. One is called an ASA framework, so attraction, selection, and attrition. The second is around socialization. And the last piece, it is around the leader's role. So let's begin with the first one. I know it's quite a mouthful talking about attraction, selection, and attrition. What it means is people are perceiving your brand in a certain way and your organization. And people will self-select whether they want to apply to your organization or not, because they're making assumptions about your culture based on what they're seeing in the news and media, from other people, in social media. Once these people come into your organization or apply for jobs, now you are selecting which people are going to fit with the culture. And usually it's not just about who is going to be the best performer for the job. And once you have these people in your organization, those that don't feel they fit with the culture, either because of values or how things get done, they decide to leave. And that's the attrition piece. So let me give you an example of how this gets applied. RBC, the Royal Bank of Canada, which is identified as one of the most diverse and successful organizations in Canada, actually use that framework in creating not just a diverse workforce, but also a very inclusive culture. So first they articulated, what does diversity mean? And unfortunately, people usually think about surface level diversity, gender, age, culture, all these factors that are visible of whether somebody is different from you or not. But they also looked at deep level diversity, which is looking at what are your values that guide your behavior? How have your experiences shaped your perspective and how you problem solve? Once they had that clarity, they started communicating that across the organization and started attracting people who came from different backgrounds, different cultures, different age groups, gender. They also created expectations around selection. Not only were they looking for the best people to fit the job, they also wanted to make sure that they were selecting people that had strong values of inclusiveness, that were conscious about the biases that they were carrying. And once these people were in, they were promoting people that actually demonstrated those behaviors more. So as you can see, by attracting the type of characteristics you want in your culture, selecting for those behaviors, values, and performance examples from the past, and then retaining that talent is what helps create culture over a long time. No wonder RBC is today considered one of the most successfully diverse organizations in Canada. The second thing is about socialization. And that's really a fancier way of saying, how do we introduce organizations? How do we introduce new people to our organizations? So let me share this. You may have heard about this very popular research that was done with monkeys in a zoo. And what the researchers did, it started with a group of monkeys and put a ladder with a banana hanging at the top. And the very first time a monkey tried to climb up the ladder to actually get the banana, What happened? Researchers sprayed cold water on everybody. And what was the outcome of that? Do this a few times, and all the monkeys started stopping anyone who was trying to climb up the ladder to get the banana. Over time, they started removing one of the monkeys who was already in there and introducing a new monkey. Within a matter of weeks, all the monkeys had been replaced. Yet none of the new monkeys ever reached for the banana. That's the power of teaching people about how things are done in an organization. It's the writing on the wall. So even though none of them knew why, because no more were the researchers spraying the monkeys with any cold water, why were they still not pursuing that banana? Because over time, they learned that that is something you never do in this organization. So what is acceptable and unacceptable gets tacitly communicated to the new people. So even when you think, we have so much new blood in the organization, why is it that we're not able to change the culture? It's because you're not controlling the narrative and stories. So start from the very beginning when a person applies to your organization. What type of messages do you want to introduce? Once they become part of the organization, how do you create an amazing orientation experience that actually shares your values with them? And eventually make sure that you're reducing that reality shock, because eventually the honeymoon hangover effect will happen after a few months of heightened expectations of this new organization. The new normal will be created. How are you controlling that narrative or shaping that narrative so that it is creating a culture or reinforcing the values that you really want to see in your culture? And the last piece was around the leader's role. You wouldn't be surprised if I say one of the most common ways board of directors of any organization decide to change the culture is by bringing in a CEO or senior leaders from other organizations that have demonstrated or have a brand of the culture that you want to create. Nortel did that with hiring the Cisco executives for their chief operating officer and their chief technology officer. They thought they will be able to bring the aggressiveness of pursuing goals and being very competitive in the market. And this strategy does or doesn't work all the time. There are many other hurdles that happen, but the most important part here is that the leader has a huge role in shaping the culture of the organization. And the number one way that they do that is through role modeling. People are not just listening to what you're saying, people are watching what you're doing. And because of the influence that you have, you are able to create structures in the organization that enable that culture to thrive. So next time you're thinking about creating an organizational culture that will support and advance your organizational strategy, think about what are you doing in terms of clarifying what those behaviors, values, beliefs need to be that sustain that culture. And then make sure you apply these 3 strategies. Think about the attraction, selection, and attrition. Think about how will you socialize them. And last, reflect on how are you behaving that is either enabling that culture to thrive or not. I hope you found value in what I had to share today. And if you think there is somebody else who's working on creating a culture that will be conducive to the success of the organization, please share this video with them. If you want to continue to learn more about demystifying change, please subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions as a follow-up to what I've shared, I'd be happy to explore it with you. Please email me on the link below. I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.